Have you ever felt like the door to your success is somehow locked by an invisible force? You've done everything right, worked hard, pushed through, stayed persistent, yet there still seems to be a wall standing in your way. Perhaps you're missing the 3 keys the universe has always offered us, yet we often overlook them the most. The smile, the silence, and the declaration. These are not 3 skills, and they're certainly not 3 success hacks. They are 3 layers of energy, 3 vibrational codes that when you tune into them, life can't help but open up to you in the way you've longed for. Florence Scovel Shinn, the woman who pioneered the law of attraction through the power of the word, once said, "Your word is your wand." What you speak into the world redraws the very reality you live in. So no, you don't need to try a little harder. You need to shift your inner energy. And the 3 keys I'm about to share with you are the beginning of that path. Let's start with the smile. Not the polite forced kind we offer out of habit, but the kind that rises from within, born of gratitude and a deep sense of unshakable safety. The Chinese have a saying, "A person who cannot smile should not open a shop." Florence once shared the story of a man who couldn't sell a single apple until he smiled. Suddenly, they began to sell one after another. Why? Because a smile carries a frequency more magnetic than any business strategy. It signals to the universe that you trust and you're ready to receive the best. Next comes silence, something most people fear. But Florence called it the hiding place of real power. When you choose silence, not complaining, not gossiping, not speaking in fear, you preserve your creative energy. This silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of stillness within. One man Florence spoke of transformed his entire life by simply choosing not to grumble over dinner anymore. From drained and weary, he became clear-minded, and success followed him even when he barely spoke. Why? Because the universe always hears faithful silence more loudly than fearful words. And finally, the declaration. Not just any words, but the kind that pulse with unwavering belief. Florence insisted that no word goes out without creating a vibration. When you say, "I am entering the most prosperous chapter of my life," and you say it from the heart, you're not just changing how you feel, you're changing the energetic field around you. The universe listens and begins rearranging circumstances to match what you've declared. And this is the truth. A smile is the key that opens the heart. Silence is the key that holds your power. The declaration is the key that calls your desire into form. When these 3 align, you no longer chase success. Success starts finding you. In the chapters ahead, I'll walk with you through each of these sacred keys, not just with explanations, but with real-life stories, miraculous examples, and powerful affirmations you can use today to begin rewriting your destiny. Let's begin with the simplest of the 3, the smile. But don't rush past it, because sometimes the greatest shift in your life's direction comes from what you once thought was small. There is a power you carry with you every day, yet seldom do you realize that it can shift your circumstances, redirect your destiny, and awaken doors you thought were forever closed. It is not luck. It is not a mentor. It is not a strategy. It is your smile. Not the kind of smile meant to please others. Not the polite surface-level smile. I'm speaking of the smile that rises from acceptance, from trust, from a deep, unshakable inner joy. Florence Scovel Shinn called it one of the highest expressions of alignment with divine law. You may be tired. You may have no idea what tomorrow holds. But if you can still smile even for just a moment, then you are no longer a victim of your reality. You've just shifted from being at the mercy of the world to becoming a tuner of your own frequency. Florence once wrote in The Secret Door to Success, "A good disposition, a smile often opens the secret door." The Chinese say, "A man without a smiling face must not open a shop." It was no coincidence that she placed that line immediately after speaking of the walls of Jericho, a subtle suggestion that the smile is the first trumpet blast that begins to shake invisible limits. I once met an African-American woman in a struggling neighborhood in New Jersey. Her life was filled with hardship, debt-troubled children, daily survival. And yet each morning she stood before the mirror, placed her hand over her heart, and smiled. At first it was a trembling smile, but over time it became a silent declaration: I have not surrendered. I am holding my vibration. A year later, she became a spiritual counselor in her community, not because she suddenly became rich, but because she chose to hold her light in the middle of her storm. As Florence wrote in Your Word is Your Wand, man's word is his wand filled with magic and power. In the place of sorrow appears joy. And the smile, it is the first declaration, not spoken through words, but through vibration. Even energy science supports this truth. A genuine smile releases oxytocin, soothes your nervous system, and most importantly, it shifts your frequency. And Florence emphasized this above all: when you change your frequency, your circumstances must follow. And no, you don't have to feel happy to smile, that's a myth. You simply have to choose to smile as a spiritual act, a decision of faith. A smile doesn't need a reason, it becomes the reason. Just like the man in The Secret Door to Success, standing on a street corner with unsold apples, a frown on his face. No one bought from him. Florence told him, try smiling. The next day, same man, same corner, but with a new energy. He sold nearly everything. Simple story, but it has endured for nearly a century for one reason. The smile is the signal that unlocks the flow of prosperity. So if you've been waiting for a sign from the universe, this is it: smile, not to pretend, but to begin again. I invite you to try something today. Stand before the mirror. Look deep into your own eyes and smile. Say nothing. Think nothing. Just feel that you are loved and you are safe. Then step outside and give that smile to someone you don't know. To yourself. To someone who needs it but doesn't know how to ask. And if there was ever a moment when someone's smile, perhaps even a stranger's, shifted your entire day, I invite you to share it in the comments below. Your story may be the light someone needs in the middle of their own storm. And if you're wondering, is there a force more powerful than this? Keep walking this path with me. In the next part, I'll guide you to a forgotten treasure silence. Not the silence of fear, but the stillness of faith. A state that can call forth the impossible by the simple power of saying nothing at all. Have you ever noticed that in the most life-altering moments, we often say nothing at all? The moment we let go, the moment we forgive, the moment we face ourselves. All of it begins in silence. Florence Scovel Shinn once wrote, "In the silence God speaks. When you are silent, truly silent, you are not merely refraining from speech. You are cleansing the space within, making room for the voice of the divine to move through." That silence becomes sacred ground, the fertile soil where declarations, desires, and prayers take root. You may have believed that change requires noise, that you must speak louder, affirm harder, or do something big and bold to shift your life. But Florence taught the opposite. She emphasized, after you've spoken the word, be silent. Let God do his work. Once you've said what you needed to say, the most powerful thing you can do is say no more. Because what often follows are questions like, is it working yet? Why hasn't it happened? When will I see a sign? These questions are not born of faith, they're born of fear. And as Florence warned again and again, fear is the poison of creation. I once spoke with a man in his 40s who had failed at 3 businesses. He said, "I've tried all the affirmations, I read the books, I repeat them daily, but nothing's changing." So I asked him, "And what do you do after the affirmations?" He paused, then said, "I go online, search for opportunities, analyze everything, and then I start doubting again." I understood, and so would Florence. Because nothing can take root in soil that is constantly being overturned. Silence is faith in action. It is where you stop needing to prove you are worthy and simply rest in the knowing that you are. In The Power of the Spoken Word, Florence wrote, "When man can say, 'I rest in God,' nothing can disturb the poise of his soul." Silence is not helplessness. It is a form of resting in faith, a wordless declaration. I have spoken. I have believed. Now I surrender the rest to the universe. Why is this important for you? Because if you don't know when to be silent, you may unknowingly undo the very thing you're asking for. Many speak of feminine energy on the spiritual path, but few understand that its truest form lies in receptivity. And silence is the highest expression of receptivity. You don't need to shout to be heard. You only need to vibrate in truth and hold enough stillness for what you desire to find its way to you. So I invite you to try something. Tonight before you sleep, instead of praying with words, breathe slowly. Think of one deep desire in your heart, and then be silent for 5 minutes. No music, no phone, no asking. Just silence, as if what you long for has already arrived. Notice what changes in your sleep and in your spirit when you rise. And if you've ever had a moment where something miraculous happened after a deep silence, I would love for you to share it in the comments. Your story might be the reason someone else makes it through another day. And if you're beginning to feel a quiet space opening within you, then you're ready for the final key, the declaration. Not just any words, but words spoken from the depth of belief, after you have smiled, after you have stilled, and when you are ready to speak your destiny into form. If you've ever spoken a phrase in a moment of despair, only to see things seem to get worse, you've witnessed the real power of the declaration. But if you've also ever spoken a simple sentence from a heart full of faith, and something good, even unexpected, came your way, then you've touched the power Florence Scovel Shinn called the magic wand of the soul. In your word is your wand. Florence wrote, "Man's word is his wand filled with magic and power." Your words are not just sound. They are vibrational commands sent out to the universe. And the universe does not respond to what you want. It responds to what you declare. That is the key difference between wishing and creating. Anyone who's ever meditated, practiced the law of attraction, or placed a hand on their heart and said, "I am worthy," has already touched an ancient soul language, the affirmation. But here lies the problem most people declare without believing. They recite affirmations like exercises. They say, "I am wealthy" 10 times, yet inside they feel empty, doubtful, anxious. Florence never taught it this way. She wrote, "You must act as if you had already received." A declaration is not begging for a possibility. It is speaking in words the reality you've already chosen. So when you say, "I am attracting prosperity," say it with the voice of someone who knows it's already on its way. Don't say it like a far-off dream. Say it as if you're placing an order into a perfect system, and that order is already being fulfilled. A woman once wrote to Florence saying, "I affirm every day that I am loved, but the man I love still left me." Florence replied, "If you spoke those words from fear of being abandoned, you were not affirming, you were resisting your own vibration." This is vital, because every word you say carries the vibration of the emotion behind it. If you declare from fear, your words lose power. If you declare from anger, your message becomes distorted. But if you declare from inner stillness, with the light of a smile within your words, become a creative command. Try feeling the difference. I am light when spoken with gratitude. I am attracting new opportunities when said with an open heart. I am loved exactly as I am when spoken without needing anyone to agree. That's when a declaration becomes an inviting frequency. Let me offer you a simple ritual. Each morning, stand before a mirror. Place your right hand over your heart and your left hand open as if receiving. Speak 3 declarations slowly with feeling. Not to achieve, but to align your vibration with what your soul already knows is yours. For example, I am grounded peace. I attract all that is noble and good. I live in divine flow. Try this for 21 days. And I believe you will begin to feel a shift. Not only in your outer world, but in how you see yourself. Because when you speak the right words with the right feeling, you become a true co-creator. And if you've ever had a moment where a simple phrase or affirmation shifted everything, please share it in the comments. Your words may become the magic wand someone else needs to find their way. And if you're now feeling ready to elevate your voice, not just to affirm, but to shape destiny, then don't miss what's next. Because in the next section, we'll explore how all three keys, the smile, the silence, and the declaration, link together into a complete energetic chain. A spiritual success formula that Florence Scovel Shinn revealed nearly a century ago, and yet is more relevant now than ever. There is something mysterious and yet entirely logical about the way intuitive souls live. Everything flows best when we are not divided within ourselves. The three keys we've now explored. The smile, the silence, and the declaration are not separate pieces of a puzzle. They are a unified current of energy, a sacred sequence leading to the door of true success. Florence Scovel Shinn never taught people to affirm mindlessly. She taught that every word only holds power when it is charged with the right emotion and spoken from a spiritually aligned state. And that state is only reached when you ignite your energy with a smile, connecting to pure joy. You contain your power through silence, preserving your vibration. Then you release your command through a declaration speaking with full alignment. Let's imagine this as a form of spiritual breath. Inhale with the smile drawing in light. Hold with silence, allowing the light to penetrate. Exhale with the declaration projecting energy outward to the universe. This cycle creates a complete powerful energetic flow. If you only do one or two parts, the current is broken. But when you link all three, you activate a fully functional spiritual operating system. Florence once wrote, "The game of life is a game of boomerangs. Man's thoughts, deeds, and words return to him sooner or later." So the smile is your seed, the silence is your soil, the declaration is your harvest. I once worked with an American energy therapist who told me, "My most powerful healing sessions always begin with a heartfelt smile, a few minutes of silence with my client, and one affirmation from the soul." That's it. Not many words, no complication. But the healing is deep and lasting. That reminded me, true success is not born of rushed action. It is born from a moment of stillness, of breath, of connection, followed by action that flows from fullness. You can practice this right now. Before stepping into a meeting, a decision, or a new day. Smile. Pause for a few silent seconds. And then speak a simple declaration, short enough to remember, strong enough to shift energy. For example, I enter this day with clarity and grace, and watch how the energy around you begins to shift. If you've ever had a moment where these three elements came together and something happened that logic couldn't explain, please share your story in the comments. Our community is not just a place for learning. It is an energetic field, and your story may become someone else's miracle. And if you're wondering, how do I maintain this energy daily, then the next part is just for you. Because we're about to explore how to make these three keys into a living, breathing spiritual lifestyle, not something you only reach for when in need, but something you become every day as part of your journey toward embodying the mission of your soul. There's one truth that Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized across all her writings. Spirituality is not something to use when needed, it is a way of life. You can't smile on Monday, hold silence on Tuesday, and declare boldly on Wednesday, then expect your life to transform. You must live with these three keys every day, like breath itself. Only then can true transformation take root. Living in a high vibration is not a temporary state. It is a living system, a spiritual rhythm that you consciously maintain. It begins when you become aware that every moment is an energy trigger point. When you wake up in the morning, what do you choose first? A small smile the moment you open your eyes. A minute of silence before grabbing your phone. One affirmation before stepping out of bed. Just those 3 choices repeated daily can shift your entire energy field. Florence didn't create a method. She reminded us of the soul's natural mechanism. And it's beautifully simple. When you smile, you open the channel. When you are silent, you hold your energy. When you declare, you activate the flow. Repeat. Every day. No striving. Just awareness. And then you begin to notice. The things you longed for come more easily. The right people show up naturally. Old problems no longer shake you like they used to. Not because the universe suddenly likes you more, but because you've begun to live as part of the universe. Living a spiritual life doesn't mean giving up your everyday world. In fact, it means bringing spirit into the smallest of moments, how you speak to your child, how you respond in traffic, how you say thank you for a sweet message, Florence said. Gratitude is the law of increase, and gratitude begins when you see each day as a chance to practice smile, be still, speak light. If you're a busy person, don't worry. This lifestyle doesn't require more time. It simply asks for presence. Create a simple ritual for yourself each day, while brushing your teeth, driving, making coffee. Pause, smile, breathe in silence, and speak a word. Even just 1 minute. But if you do that 5 times a day, you've aligned with high frequency 5 times a day. And that is how your energy field is gently and consistently retrained. So I invite you, if you've tried any of the 3 keys, please share in the comments. Have you spoken a declaration that brought results? Had a profound moment in silence? Experienced a smile that opened a door you didn't expect? Share your story. Because sometimes your small story is the bridge someone else needs to cross their storm. And if you've walked with me this far, then you are already stepping into a path with no return, the journey of living as a conscious creator. In the next and final section, we'll bring this entire journey together to touch the deepest level of Florence's message. And understand, true success is not about achieving something. It's about becoming someone who lives fully in high vibration. If you're listening to these final words, it means you've reached the end of today's journey. And I want you to know there are no coincidences. Because, as Florence Scovel Shinn once said, there is no loss in divine mind. There is only a divine appointment. This moment, this pause where you stop to listen about the smile. The silence and the declaration is not random. It is a sacred appointment with your highest self. Perhaps you've heard plenty about the law of attraction, the subconscious mind, the power of words. But today, I believe, you didn't just hear. You felt. You felt yourself smile a little softer, breathe a little quieter, and trust a little deeper in every word you now speak. And if that happened, then this video has fulfilled its purpose. Dear soul, success is not a destination. It lives in the quality of the vibration you carry each day. You may still be in the same job, the same home with the same unfinished challenges. But if something inside you has shifted, then the outer world must begin to shift too. Because as Florence taught, change your thoughts and in doing so change your conditions. So if there's one thing I hope you carry with you from this video, let it be this. Smile as if a miracle is already unfolding. Be silent as if the universe is already at work. Declare as if you are a co-creator of everything you desire. Not just once, but every day, gently, consistently, not perfectly, just authentically. I believe you can live this way. I believe we all can. Each of us can become a living magnetic field, drawing in the beautiful, the good, the true, simply by the energy we radiate from a soul that is awake. If what I've shared here has touched something within you, please don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment below. What part of this video made you feel something shift inside? Which key will you begin practicing first? The smile, the silence, or the declaration? I read every comment, and every word you share is a vibrational declaration sent into the sacred space we're co-creating here together. If you found this video meaningful, feel free to click, share it with a friend who may need this message, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next teachings inspired by Florence Scovel Shinn. We are not just viewers, we are a community of souls remembering how to live by spirit. And I'm deeply grateful that you are here. See you in the next video, where we don't just learn, we awaken.